not invent this myth as a mind programming tool, as certain myths have been invented for that purpose. For instance, the myth of the Messiah, the myth of the chosen people, are toxic myths of human invention that have been introduced as mind programming tools. Absolutely on the contrary, the Sophianic myth is a mind-liberating vision story. And it's left open so that we can participate in it, and also it's left open because, in fact, they didn't know how it was going to end. They set us into a story, they put us into a story, and where we are now today, when we come into the Sophia myth today, we come to the story realizing that it's reached its critical point, and that we are involved in the solution of the divine Sophia. We are involved in her correction. These anomalies that we're seeing in the sky, these anomalies, astronomical anomalies, the length of the day, the setting of the sun, weird, powerful rumblings and inexplicable sounds coming from the interior of the earth, vortexes appearing in the ocean, huge vortexes appearing off in the Caribbean Ocean.
Yeah.
I could name more. You could name more than I, because I think you carry them often on your news features.
That's right. Sinkholes and the spirals in the sky, and what the heck is all that about?
That's right. I'm not saying that I can explain all these anomalies, but I am suggesting that if we take the Sophia myth and we bring it right up to the current moment, and we say, okay, Sophia is a name for the divine being from the cosmic center who turned into the earth. So she is the wisdom goddess, the earth goddess, and she's alive, and she is now taking the earth on its own course in interstellar space. It's very important when we contemplate the Sophia myth to put it in an astronomical perspective, because it is an astronomical myth. It's a story about something that happened in this galaxy and how the solar system and the Earth arose. Now, we currently know, based on what science tells us, that the Earth belongs to a planetary system that is orbiting around a sun, and this entire planetary system, rather like a fleet of ships, if you will, is sailing along upstream in the third arm of a four-armed lenticular spiral galaxy. Now, everyone can have this picture, can form this simple picture. When you form this picture, you have the actual setting of the Sophia mythos. And what is happening today with these anomalies, I'm starting to work with a group of people who are collecting observations on these anomalies. And as they send them in to me, I'm attempting to use my understanding of astronomy combined with this myth to explain what these anomalies are, by way of saying, up until now, up until Sophia's correction, the planet Earth was captured in the solar system. Gnostic cosmology teaches us this. I think I've mentioned this before in our previous interview. Gnostic cosmology teaches us a remarkable fact, that the planet Earth is an organic body captured in an inorganic system. None of the other planets in the solar system, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, contain organic life in large creature forms, in large animal forms. There may be microbial forms of life on those planets. They don't contain life in the form that it is on the Earth. So the picture is that the Earth is an organic body captured in this inorganic celestial mechanics. The correction of Sophia is an actual astronomical event. And I couldn't talk about it until now. Many people asked me when my book came out, many people who got the Sophia myth and learned it, read the 9 episodes, came to me with a question, and they said, well, John, what's happening in the 9th episode? We're in the 9th episode. Sophia's correction is supposed to happen, and how is that going to happen? And I didn't tell them any answer because I didn't know. And now I realize that I was acting from a deep instinct a deep gut intuition by not answering that question, by not even trying to answer it. Because the wonderful reality here is that the correction of Sophia can only be known in the moment it's happening. And that moment is now. And these anomalies are indications that the Earth is beginning to move as a self-propelling, self-directing material globe.
Out through the inorganic system that we're trapped in.
That's right. It doesn't mean that it's moving out of the organic system, although that's possible, the inorganic system. Want to give this picture as clearly as possible. I want to be very rigorously careful. Imagine again, I use this nautical metaphor. I want to talk more about it, and perhaps in the second session we can really go into it. I'm using a nautical metaphor here to help picture what's actually happening. If you imagine the solar system as a fleet of ships, and don't even think of the sun as another ship. Think of the sun as a huge eddy. It's a huge spiraling vortex or eddy. And this eddy is moving down the stream of the galactic arm. Okay? You know how when you're standing by a river or even by a little creek sometime, and you're looking at the surface of the water, you can see that there are eddies in the water.
Right.
And they travel along down the stream, and they keep their form, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Imagine that the sun is a vast eddy of solar plasmic energy, and that the planetary system is moving around it in such a way that the whole collection draws itself into a spiral, because the solar system is not flat. The eddy is moving, and so the orbits of the planets are drawn into spirals. And that is the motion to visualize of the fleet of these planets. Now, up until now, the Earth, which is a member of this fleet of planets, has more or less followed the general laws. It has been in formation with the fleet. What it's doing now is taking its own course. And I believe that I can prove that to be so. And not only can I prove it to be so, I can show in specific detail regarding the observations that are being made as to why the sun would appear for instance, why would the sun appear to be setting more hard north? Well, that is because of a certain movement that the Earth is making independent of the whole rest of the solar system. Now, it's true that science, hard science, would say, well, this is impossible. It's impossible for the Earth to do anything other than what it can do if it's locked in the celestial mechanics of our solar system, right?
Right.
But I don't care about science if it doesn't fit the evidence.
That's right.
You know? And I would have to say that these anomalies that we're seeing, Henrik, I'm sure there are much more of them that are even reported to you and reported on YouTube. Many more. And I expect that we're going to see increasing anomalies. And I also expect that we are due to see staggering anomalies. Anomalies that stop people in the street and leave them with their jaw hanging open. And science will not be able to explain these anomalies within the current paradigm of astronomy. But if we follow the journey of the Earth, and I have techniques for following it and charting it, through the stars, through the intergalactic space, where it's sailing, these anomalies can actually tell us what the mothership is doing. I call it the mothership. What the mothership is doing, how she's actually turning her course, where she's turning her course, what stars she is using to navigate by. It's down to that detail. And this is what I'm doing now in my little crew notes and in my little navigational experiment that I'm conducting with some people.
Really interesting. It's like, reminds me of, we have an author here in Sweden called Harry Martinsson. He wrote a story called Aniara about this spaceship, basically, that people are on, and it kind of reminds me of this story a little bit. That's a wonderful story. But where is it? I'm still trying to grasp this idea of where it is going. Maybe it is not a physical location per se, but how, if it is a traveling in somewhere else so to speak, where...
Okay, where is the Earth going? The
Right.
Earth, let's say, using the nautical metaphor,
Mm.
if we want to understand Sophia's correction, I'm proposing that the best tool to use is a nautical metaphor. Now, it's a very interesting metaphor. It's not just the metaphor. If I say the Earth is a mothership sailing through the starry seas, well, that's a metaphor, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the language, it's a metaphor. But as a matter of fact, that metaphor is a literal description of what the Earth is doing.
That's right.
And it's just as good as saying the Earth is a planet moving through interstellar space. Well, that's also a metaphor. Excuse me, you know? So I'm saying let's use a metaphor that we can participate in. So we're passengers on a mothership sailing through interstellar space. And on the navigational deck, which is where I stand, we can actually understand and chart the journey. For instance, how does it happen that I can say that the Earth is starting to assume its own proper self-propelled, get that, by the way, self-propelled motion, moving slightly in relation to the solar system? It's not necessarily at first going to move out of the solar system, but it's going to assume its own discernible, detectable motion within the solar system. And that is going to cause enormous astronomical and geophysical anomalies. So where is it going? We're on a journey on the mothership. She's taking her own course now, and she's going actually back home. We're all going home. What is home? Well, according to the Sophianic myth, home is the galactic center. So we're all going back to the galactic center, but we're going back on a long, slow boat to China. In other words, we don't go back by zipping right over into the galactic center. We go back by sailing up the big, big lazy river of the galactic arm. And the sun, it is said, to sail is said to move around the galactic center. As you know, the sun and solar system is said to move around the galactic center every so many billion years. Well, try to picture this, that the sun and the earth and the planets are moving around the galactic center, and each time they make a full circle, they move a little bit more inward toward the galactic center. It's like a closing spiral. And so if you want to visualize astronomically and poetically Sophia's journey as the planet Earth, it's a journey around the galactic center, but moving more and more in and returning homeward, because she comes from the galactic center. She is the being indwelling the Earth is an aeon or divine energy from the galactic center. And we can actually plot the way that she is moving through the stars and moving in relation to the galactic center. This can actually be plotted. And I'm showing how to do that, and by that plotting, we can understand how and why these anomalies are taking place. Give you one example, okay? I realize this is very wild, but I'll give you one example. One of the first anomalies that was noticed, which I picked up myself, and you have noticed also from these reports, is just in our face, is, well, the sun is not rising at the same angle anymore. It's amateur astronomers and kids of the age of 10 years old have noticed that it's rising very hard to the north. Seems to be further north than it ought to be. How can I explain that anomaly in terms of the Gaia's taking a new course? The planet is taking a new course. Well, it's my understanding that the Earth is in the galactic arm, and you know the galactic arm, the spiral arm, is a river of stars, but she's not sailing on top of the river of stars. She's sailing in the river of stars. And sometimes she can go deeper in the river of stars, that is, she can go down, and sometimes she can go up in the river of stars. Do you follow that picture?
Mm-hmm, yeah.